we know where the name came from. That's about it.
Ah.
But we know like how your dad started.
Yes.
He delivered milk.
He was actually a milkman. He drove a milk truck. He grew up on a dairy farm. He drove for a company called Dykeman Dairy, which was the name of the company. Um, that was in New York. That was in New Hyde Park, New York. So his dad was a milkman. Then he was a milkman since he was a kid, and so he basically would like deliver milk, and they play football, and then his father ended up getting sick a little bit, so he ended up quitting. He graduated around, I think he graduated at 8th or ninth grade. That was it. And then he just started supporting the family, delivering milk. And then when he turned around, he started going to hot rods, and he was around 16 to 17. Started hanging around a place called Speedwin Automotive in Hempstead, New York. And then he just graduated to race cars. So learned how to build engines. And then he built his first set of headers back in 1962. So he was only 22 years old. But he started actually building, customizing cars since the age of 16, 17. But he was still a milkman. He was a milkman, through the night, and then instead of sleeping, he built headers during the day. And he worked out of his house in Brentwood, New York. And then that was around 1962 to 65 or 66, I'd say. Then around 1966, he got a place over in Pioneer Drive, Suffolk Avenue, which was called it was Cook's Headers, and also Racemaster Speed was Larry Kelly was next to him. We used to do chassis fabrication. So Larry built the race cars, and my father would build the headers or traction bars. He liked doing traction bars as well. And then after that, he moved to a place down Pioneer Drive, a little bit bigger place. So that was like 1971. And they started doing motorcycle headers, and they started doing some industrial work as well. Then 1973 and 4, he went to California. And he went to a place called Cyclone Headers or Screaming Eagle Headers, which is a motorcycle conglomerate that they wanted to, partner up with my father to build motorcycle headers and run his plant. And then around 1975, that had falling out with the partners. 1975 he came back, started being a milkman again. From 1975 to like 1977, a couple of years, he was a milkman. He actually broke his elbow, and he shattered his elbow, had little issues. He had to take some cartilage out of his arm, stuff like that. So he ended up going to hiatus a little bit and went to the car wash and gas stations, and owned up to a couple of hundred gas stations at one time and car washes. And then 1984 and 1985, then I started getting more into hot rods myself around 1986, 87. And then actually 1985, let's see, 17, 18, yeah. So around 1985, I started getting my first box Nova, 85, 86. My first car was a 66 box Nova, which had a 408 small block in it, narrow rear end, fiberglass hood, fiberglass doors, 12-point cage, two pro bucket race seats. That was my first street car, which is basically a pro street car. Had some crummy exhaust on it, so I didn't know that. I thought it was cool. I come home, my father's like, "Hey, Ace." My father used to always call me Ace, never called me George ever or Junior. Hey, so you fire it up, and I'd fire it up. I'm like, "Whoa, what's that?" Like, it sounded nasty. He made the exhaust before the rear tires, and I was like, he just like whipped it up out of nowhere, like it was like cooking a bread, cooking cake, fast. So I fired it up, and I'm like, oh man. And actually now it was a spark, something like that. I'm like, that's cool. And actually now we started like, I want to do some of that, because I used to modify, and I started working on my own cars and modifying stuff. I go to shop class, and I would port my own manifolds and mill my own heads. I learned how to do stuff myself. So we started getting like some of the zest back, and the Kooks got it fired up again.